Carol Little. I'm the math coordinator, and I'm not sure if I recognize any of you. Have you come to other ones of these?
Me too. For my older kid.
Well, so I do give them for every grade. First through fifth grade, they're very aligned with the unit. So when we're doing a number sense unit on adding, I do adding and subtracting then. We'll do it on multiply.
I came to grade 3 and it was so hard.
Well, good, you're at pre-K, it's not. So I do want to let you know this is a very different workshop because this is about the whole year. We really, pre-K is about keeping that curiosity and sparkle alive. I did a kindergarten 1 session at the beginning of the day, and I got the best response I ever got from a parent, because you'll get to tell me how you think it was. And he goes, "You reminded me how young my child is, and I ought to let him be a child." That is my biggest offering to you, especially in pre-K. Their world is just opening up to them. We want them to be out exploring and out figuring things out for themselves. Yes, we're going to guide them along the way. But really, pre-K is not about getting a step into Harvard or Oxford or school of your choice. Pressuring our kids as a 4-year-old is a good way to diminish that sparkle, diminish that light. So we've got to make sure that we keep this fun and engaging. Learning is inherently fun. We like it. Struggle can help us like it. They're not going to struggle much at 4. Well, it depends. You might get to a problem by the end of this where we would all struggle. It's the challenge, and that's where we build the perseverance. And that's where kids build their confidence in themselves. Confidence has to be built because they've accomplished something, not because we say something to them. So, as I said, I do the math coordinator from pre-K to 5. I make sure that our grade levels are aligned step by step, so your kids are ready to leave pre-K and go into kindergarten first, 5th to middle school. So we are very aligned. I want to be real careful. Pre-K and K, your kids haven't lived very long. The difference between a 4-year-old and 1-month brain and a 4-year-old and 10-month brain is pretty vast. Their brains are growing that much. It's very easy to say, oh, I don't compare my kids, but you really, really have to take that to heart. When you see 2 kids sitting down and the one child just gets it and yours may be struggling, there could be a 10-month age difference. There could be a year's age difference. And that holds through kindergarten. That age difference is a big deal. So a lot of times we say, they're where they're at right now, I'm going to check back in 2 months. I'm going to check back in 4 months. Our standards are about at the end of the year. Yes, we give you benchmarks along the way so you know how they're progressing, but what we really care about is that these benchmarks and standards are what any of the children in pre-K should be able to attain. And if they don't, that's fine. They've got kindergarten. I mean, that is what schooling is about. Also, your kids may have learned it fabulously in September. If we don't keep revisiting that, it's not going to stay in their long-term memory. They're so young, their brains are so malleable. So you might see something coming home again and kind of think, they've already done this. Yeah, they have. We put a new spin on it. We may make it larger, but we make sure we're talking about numbers the entire year to keep that going. And I don't know if you've got older kids, but this is that whole summer drain that they talk about, that moving backwards. It's natural, it's okay, especially because our teachers are aware of it and they teach to it. So you will see spiraling as we go. Everything I'm talking about, the fact that I did kindergarten this morning and pre-K now, I mean, they're all the same topics. But we do them at a better or deeper depth in kindergarten. Really, they're the same topics all the way up to 5th grade. We add fractions in 3rd grade. So, my name is here. I have the standard ASD typical email. You're welcome to email me at any time. ASD Parent Math Resources is a site that I put, this video will go up. This packet will go up, not that there's much in this packet because it's pre-K and they don't read and write. But if you wanted to find information, if you have older kids, it's by grade level. There's a website up there suggesting games, because anytime that we can bring joy to the math and real life to the math, the kids start seeing it as this is part of my world. And they need to see it as part of their world, not something they study in school. So quickly, if you could have them set the table, because if they've got to count out forks, if you have them go get 3 oranges, all of that is math in the real world. A mother just came and said, she goes, my daughter comes home and says, we don't do math. I think that's a fabulous statement. She sees it as so part of her world, she doesn't have it boxed in. She's doing math, she's just not aware of it. That's perfect at age 5. Okay, all I do is I have this list of the things your kids are going to be exposed to this year. It's pretty much in order of the way they're doing it, so I'm just going to go down and we're going to do some activities. I'm actually going to skip, the very first thing your kids did this year was alike and different. I would like you to tell me which one of these is different from the rest.
Try.
So you think a triangle is different. Why? Okay. Does everybody agree on the triangle? Yeah, it's got 3 sides. It is the one that's different. I'm sorry.
The size is this one, but the color is the other one.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you can say this one's the different one because it's not. It doesn't have solid color. What about this one? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna.
It's the only one that's square. The rest is like.
Yeah, it's a square. None of the rest are square. What about this one? I'll tell you, in kids' language, they'll say it's pushed over. This is a flat side. They're all on their points.
Yeah.
So I have a book. You can actually, each one of these can be considered the one that's different. What we don't accept is, we always ask you why. And that's, you get to get back at your kids. You get to ask them why, because that's how it's going to make sense to them and they're going to ensure that they understand what's going on. So alike and different is a very big concept, because if they don't understand alike and different, what would be the difference between 2 and 3? So a lot of pre-K math is language. So alike and different is where they started. They've moved on from there, but as I said, they'll be going back. The teachers are dying. They want me to give them this book. I said, wait, hold on, let me. So they will be revisiting these things throughout the year. But that's something very easy to do with your kids. You know, in a grocery store, how are those apples alike? How are they different? So it's that constant thing. How are those 2 cars alike? I really use, we are in our cars a lot with our kids, pretty much held hostage to us. It's when we can chat with them. We don't want to drill them, but we want to know what's going on. So, and we want to be able to ask them questions that they'll find interesting. So they've done alike and different. And then they immediately, at the very beginning, started composing and decomposing. Why? I think we need a new Elmo. To compose means to put together. If you go out to fancy restaurants, they have composed salads. It means they put many things together. We compose music, we put it together. So we've gone to this mathematical language of using compose and decompose, which is to take apart. We use the language in front of the kids. We don't require them to learn it, but they do. You know this about your children. They're sponges right now. And if we use it, and then we say, oh, let's talk like mathematicians today, they will use it back. On the other hand, if a child doesn't understand it, we're going to use many words. You know, to compose it, put it together with hand motions, with the objects in front of them. We're composing something. So we're giving them clues all the time about what we're asking. So we compose and decompose numbers up to 5. That's about what they can handle. They have manipulatives with them at all times. Fingers are a good thing. It's okay to count on their fingers. It's okay. We will eventually get to putting numbers together, 2 and 3. They're more likely to use both hands, which is fine. I don't know who this is. Please come in. Counting on their fingers is, I won't say beautiful, it's great. Do we expect them to move on in the upper grades? Yes. Sometimes they hold on to this because it's just comfortable for them, and we're going to push them on to see that there are other things more efficient. I'll tell you, when I'm working with dates and how many days, and I'm publishing something, I count on my fingers again. I know it, I just have to be, it's that whole date thing of, I'm including the first, or the 10th, it's actually 1. So when it's really, really important, I can use my fingers again. So starting in pre-K, they are starting to learn strategies. Yes, they get more sophisticated, but what we're doing is giving them a tool chest. Sometimes counting on the fingers is the appropriate thing. Sometimes using the counters is the appropriate thing. We know they will get to the point where they can see it in their heads and they can do it mentally, or they can do it by writing down. But we don't throw away the old ones. They are appropriate at different times. When something gets harder, like we move into teens or go above 100, we come back to the manipulatives. Every time it's a new concept at a new level, we come back to the manipulatives. The lining up that we're going to talk about of these cute little things leads to what we call an array, which leads to making a visible model of x plus y squared, the quantity squared. And that way we're teaching them one way instead of having to memorize one thing for one thing and another thing for another. We're giving them strategies that build and will stay with them. So composing and decomposing up to 5. We play a lot of games with partners. You and your partner, you each get one hand. How can you make 5? So I'm going to ask you to do this. Between the two of you, you each get one hand. How can you make the quantity 5? It might be like that. What else? It might be like that.
4 and 1.
Might be 4 and 1.
5 and 0.
It might be 5 and 0 is probably the hardest one. The idea of 0 is actually a higher level understanding than the rest of the numbers. But we do have a unit, we do talk about that. If we have 5 and 0, what about this? Yeah. So commutative property, yes, we know that they equal the same thing. That can be mind-blowing for a child the first time realizing it. So this is where they're at in their learning. So we decompose and compose to 5, and that is the benchmark by the end of the year. Right now, we're still making sure they understand what 5 means. So I want to talk about counting. I gave all my manipulatives away. One-to-one correspondence means, now let me go with rote counting. Rote counting is knowing the order of the words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I may not even know where the syllables start, but I'm just doing it. I may have no idea what the value of 13 is. I guarantee you, most 4-year-olds do not understand what 13 is. Rote counting is still good. It's kind of like knowing your ABCs and knowing the song. It is knowing the order of the numbers, so that when we start understanding one-to-one correspondence, which is when I say 1, I have 1 quantity. When I say 2, I have 2 of the items. 3, 4. We have a lot of kids that if I put this out, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And at the beginning of the year, that's hallelujah. That's what they should know. By the end of the years, they should know one-to-one correspondence to 10. They should be able to count 1-to-1. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm going to use this bucket. The beginning of one-to-one correspondence is 1, 2, 3, 4. They need to physically move it and know that they've done it. Now, I can ask that same child. They just counted to 4. I go, how many are in the bucket? They might have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Great, they're learning how to count, learning that 1-to-1. That ability to hold on to the number that they can trust, that they're counting, tells them the last number tells them the quantity is the next step. A lot of kids are there, not all, they'll get there. So some kids, so we need to ask that question. 1, 2, 3, 4, so how many are there? There are 4. Then we take the bucket away. So we're moving through the year. And some kids are moving faster, and some of them, we've got that bucket out. The next ability is in a line. And they either touch it, they might move it, but still they can do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a little bit more sophisticated than having to take it away and move it. The next two are kind of equal in their difficulty. That's supposed to be a circle. Do they understand if you only count it once that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or do they just keep going?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So there aren't more than 6 there. So that's the next lesson. It's like, but haven't you counted that? If we're really counting the quantity, how could you do that? Honestly, most kids take them out of the circle and count them in a straight line. Good. That's a strategy they figured out to use. If they're colored, they can remember the first one is red. There's a lot of ways that they can do it. And I would ask them, how do you know? So the circle is difficult, and that is difficult. There's no pattern to it. So they're most likely going to move them into a straight line. We use 5-frame cards. And once they get used to seeing that, they'll use it to 5 and 1 just because they've seen the teacher do it. And it's our brain likes patterns. That's why we show things such as the 5-frame so that the kids see it the same way and over again. And if we have the 5-frame, can I make it big enough for these teddy bears? You see it. Kids get used to seeing that, and pretty soon they know that's 4 without counting because 1 is empty. They start making that ability. There's a word that we love. It's called subitizing. Heard it, subitizing and subitizing. Subitizing is the number that we can hold in our head or see without having to count. So if this was arranged like this, a child will develop the skill to see 3 and then go 4. This is a really important skill. This is back to that decomposing of numbers and being able to use them to make sense of their world and to make their problems easier. In pre-K, 3 is about as high a number as they usually can subitize. There's always kids who can do more. And I was going to say the other exception is kids who've played with dominoes or dice. They can also do 5. Only when it's in this position. So we're not going to always show them 5 like this. We're going to show them it a lot of different ways. But if we were to see this, they're most likely going to go to 3, 4, 5. Your kids are doing what we call dot card talks, where we show them these dot cards and we say, what do you see? A set of 6 dots. Some kids might see it 2, 2, and 2. Some kids might see it 3 and 3. This is kind of a setup. If I did that, they might see 3 and 3. They might see 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, all these different ways. And we want the kids talking about all the different ways because at different times they're going to use, again, the different strategies, what applies to their problem. So I want to move on. That's the counting that they're doing. The counting is they're doing it all year, and again, it's they need to rote count up to 10. They're going to move into geometry, and geometry is about patterns. How do you see the little faces? That doesn't really matter. We'd like you to tell me. Oh, I need to label. I'm not sure which way is better for you to see it. Yeah, okay, well, I'm trying to get you to one thing. What is the pattern here of these teddy bears?
Small, big, red, yellow.
Straight line.
Yep.
The color.
So red, yellow. Big, small, big, small. There's
Oh,
another one. What I was
upside
really
down?
hoping. Yeah. No, he's not. I don't think he's upside down. I think it's just the bad. I've got them going. What you can't see, one is sitting, one is standing. So that's bad video. So in the patterns at pre-K, we don't ask them to develop them, but we ask them to extend them. And we give them, if you can see one, can you see another? The fancy math term is, that's an attribute. Red, yellow, big, small, big, small. We are only asking what we call an A-B pattern. I wouldn't do yellow, yellow, red, yellow, yellow, red. We just go every other one, A-B, A-B. That's what a pre-K child should be doing. Now, can they extend it? Can they find the right teddy bears? Actually, would you please build an A-B pattern with your teddy bears? Would you each do it? Because I'm going to have your partner explain. Just do 4, because you're going to need to leave some for your. Would you then extend your partner's pattern? That means, would you add more to it following the same pattern? I hope you have enough of the teddy bears. Ooh, backwards, forward, backwards, forward. Okay, so you get the idea. These teddy bear packages are fabulous because you can do so many things and describe them. We really want kids to understand that many times in math there are multiple answers. We like right answers also, but a lot of times there is more than one answer. So this idea of perseverance of, great, you found one way, what's another way you could do it? But I still want them, so they've extended this, but I want them to explain it also. What pattern are they seeing? Because we just had 3 different patterns here. So you want that verbalization. Everything is, great, you've done it. Prove it to me, explain it to me. What do you see? How did you build it? Those are really important questions. So in the middle of this, we've built a pattern, which obviously also blends with sorting. We had to go into a group and sort out what we needed. So those 2 are coming together as they're doing it. So I had to go into my group and sort out what I needed. These take weeks in pre-K. We're able to do it, obviously, in a minute or 2. So this is kind of a very big part, but it's also extended the entire year. But as I said, we extend and we explain, but we don't ask them to build it. Are kids going to naturally, if they like it, they're going to naturally do it, and I'm going to let them for that extension, but it's not what I'm going to require the kids to do. So I'm now clear down into this geometry of 2D and 3D shape. 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional. We might use that language with them, but we certainly don't expect them to learn that. They're really called flat and solids. So a flat is a circle. I put them all away. So the 2D are flat. They could sit on the table. This isn't perfect, but if I would have a cylinder with this. And these are related. How are they alike? Well, there's a circle on the bottom of here. There should be a circle on the top if I have the proper thing. So we talk about that. And that's all. We don't expect them to learn attributes of why is it a circle. Circle's a tough one. Why is it a square? That's not what we're asking them. We're asking them to recognize it. We're asking them to see where do they see these shapes in real life. So the shapes and the geometry is really about labels and about visualizing it elsewhere. And then the relationship at a very low level between a 2D and a 3D shape. They will be going on, and we call it a field trip, but they go throughout the school with a clipboard looking for the shapes. They think it's a big deal. It's very cute. In kindergarten, they'll start saying a square has 4 equal sides. We're not there. We just want them to recognize the difference. We are very careful about the difference between a square and a rectangle. Because a square is a rectangle. We want to ensure that we don't start teaching kids something wrong at a very young age. Unteaching something is one of the hardest things to do. So when we get fifth graders who are still telling me that a square and a rectangle aren't the same or there's no relationship, we've got a problem. We've got to go back to that definition. But right now, kids just have to recognize them. So I am going to make sure that kids are also calling that square a rectangle. And we'll talk about why, but it's not, I don't want to say it's not important. That's not what we're going to assess them on or double check of their knowledge. It's more just the recognition and the label. In kindergarten, we'll start caring because then they'll know that a square has 4 equal sides. They don't even get into angles, and that's first grade. So I'm telling you about what's coming because you can see how it's related. We've got the labels, then we have some defining things, and then we add on to the defining. The classification of all these items is actually a 5th grade skill now. Measurement. Your kids might be in this unit or it's the next one coming up. I'm not sure the actual dates. We just talk about lighter, heavier, taller, shorter. We hand them, they're going to get a brick one day. And they'll get a brick and a book that look about the same size. How can you compare them? I can compare them by size. Well, they might be equal. I can compare them by weight. This one's heavier or this one's lighter. We don't try to trip them up of, how do I say this? They only need to say it one direction. If they say the brick is heavier, I'm happy. I'm not going to try to get them with the same 2 objects to say this one's lighter. We'll talk about it, but that's not, we're going for a single definition here. So they'll do a lot. So it's taller. They'll be comparing themselves to each other in height. They'll be looking at bookcases, taller, shorter. Some of that language, especially as we talk about kids we've got different languages in the classroom, some of that's pretty hard. And getting the ER, which means we've made a comparison, so the language is very important. I started off saying a lot of pre-K math is about language. We need that. Lighter, heavier, taller, shorter. I don't think they go to wider. Those are the 4 big ones. By spring, we will get to addition. We will be telling them stories. They'll be seeing a picture and they'll be having manipulatives there to listen to the story. And she said, oh, she has 2 apples. Now this is interesting. I would never use bears in a story about apples. So we will switch over to generic because to a 4-year-old's mind, why is she talking about apples and putting a bear out in front of me? But they'll accept a cube. They'll accept something that really to them has no meaning. So I could say, I ate 2 apples today. I ate 2 yesterday. How many do I have? So we get them starting to build these stories. We'll ask them to write it down. The idea that they're connecting that a number can be written in a very symbolic way is great. I may not be able to read it, but if they can tell me it's 2, that's acceptable. We do practice the writing of numbers, but at that point, that is a very esoteric idea that number 2 that all of us take for granted means this quantity. We're more likely to see 2 circles and then 2 circles. So we talk to them. In kindergarten, I would pretty much expect them to draw something that looks like an apple. Even though they use generic pieces when they go to their own drawings, in general, they're going to draw something that in their mind they would know it was an apple as opposed to just 2 things. We don't really move away from the idea. By 1st grade, we talk about math isn't art class. So they don't get to draw the little girl with the bow in the hair and the striped outfit. It's like, just put a circle down. That's not till 1st grade. They're not ready to separate that. They're very concrete thinkers. So we will be getting, as I said, up to 5. The only thing we do is it's put together, and subtraction is take apart. No, excuse me, take away. There is another story for subtraction. It's a comparison. If I'm 5 feet tall and you're 2 feet tall, what's the difference? That is a higher level question. We're just that physical thing. They can take 2 away or they can take 3 away. So I want to talk about, we will show them that this was 2 plus 2. And that sign, you can't see that at all, can you? You see that now?
I don't know.
Okay, I want to talk about that. That is the equal sign. That means absolutely nothing. We try, and I'm bad at this because I'm not in the pre-K classroom every day. Through 1st grade, we try to use that's the same as. It's teaching them that what's on one side of the equation, or we call them number sentences, but we'll use the word equation. One kid who wants to use it, great, they're perfectly capable of learning it. But that 2 plus 2 is the same as 4. The reason we do this, and it's been proven by way too many studies, is that when we ask kids in 5th grade, let that focus in, we get went the other way. Let's see if I can. There. Cool. Kind of afraid to touch it. It's got an automatic thing that I would say is really not working. There it is. Most kids by 5th grade write 4 here because they think equals means give me an answer. As soon as I take that word away and say the same as, they'll write 3. So we're trying to really change that habit. They don't really understand what equal means, so let's use the language that they do know so that they understand. The other term is the 2 sides are balanced. That's works really well in algebra, but we can start using that. I don't think I'd use it in pre-K. I think more that's about 1st grade. We'll start talking about it's the same as or it's balanced. And that change of language changes the outlook on this problem. So, by 5th grade, they are going to be saying equal. But at this age, equal, I mean, that's just a word that somebody's put to that. It's the same as is what's going to help them. I'm not great. I'll give this talk and then I'll slip into it because I'm not in the classroom with them every day, but we really try to say, well, how is it the same? How could we make it the same? And we're always going to ask them, well, we're not going to ask pre-K that. I'm going to ask them, so what is it the same as? And when they say 4, what's my question? How do you know? Prove it to me. It's funny, some kids take prove it to me, they think I don't believe them or they think they're lying, and other kids find it very scientific. So it's a funny word, just that difference of opinion that you get from the kids. So how do you know? Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Starting to draw it. Again, may not be legible, but the idea that they understand that that squiggle or that picture on the page means something is the appropriate thing at 4 years of age. Now, I want them to be able to communicate it. I want them to be able to tell it to me. The assessments in class are done orally. They're done in groups, they're done as the kids are working, but the teachers are very purposeful in their activities that they're doing, and they're walking around and they're asking the kids. Now, if you two are playing and doing a problem and I hear you say 2 plus 2 is 4 because look, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm not going to ask it. You just explained it. I don't have to make a special time. So teachers in pre-K are using checklists and making notes all the time. Okay, so subitizing we talked about. It's that recognition of a number. So if I said 2 apples and 2 apples, let's get something else on there. So at least get 3 apples. Is the child holding 2 in their head and counting up 3 more to get 5? Has the child figured out that they can hold 3 in their head and count up 2 more and get 5? These are those subtle things. This is how we're going to push kids or nudge kids who got it really solid. It's like, well, we want them to keep learning. So we can nudge them along in that different way of thinking of it or different way of seeing. And I would ask first is, are those the same? Is the conversation I'm going to have with that child who can count it up or get that answer really quickly. So we've got these questions ready in our head that when I've seen them meet that standard time and time again, I want to nudge them to that next thinking. Numbers, comparing numbers. This is the more than or less than, and is strictly, again, I'm sounding like a broken record, it's done with the manipulatives. Can they compare them? Can they compare whether 3 is more than or less than 2? Back to the comment earlier, we're only asking them, I would call it reading it one way. 3 is more than 2. On this particular setup, I'm not expecting 2 is less than 3. If I wanted that from them, I would physically move it. This is what they're ready for. We're not trying to make them go 2 different directions. Some kids are going to see it naturally, but that's just bonus on their part. So we've got more than, less than, and the same as. And again, you'll notice the language is purposeful. It doesn't say equal to, it does say the same as. That is pre-K, the numbers side. Numbers are about arithmetic. Problem solving is now what we talk about being the real mathematics. It's like, how does it really work in the real world? If you've been around schools for a while, you've probably seen us shift to more word problems, to more real life problems, because we were shortchanging our students by only having them do the arithmetic. And it showed up in test scores around the world. The schools, the countries, nations that were doing great had big, rich problems that the kids had to do lots of thinking and figuring out for themselves. And then you looked at the US, who it was a whole page of just add 2 plus 3, 1 plus 2. So, we've learned. We are doing a lot of problem solving. At 4 years of age, 4 and 5 years of age, problem solving is really engineering. It's not about numbers. We're no longer asking them to solve problems with numbers because they're not ready. They're still learning the numbers. So I have a problem for you. I want to see what you do with what we asked your kids. It was Halloween, I believe. I've got to stand over here to get this correct. Five little pumpkins sitting on a gate. They had read poetry, they had colored pumpkins, they knew what a pumpkin was. The materials on the table will be used to build a bridge to hold pumpkins, meaning the pumpkin had to be up and off the table. That was a good enough definition for a bridge. Here are your building materials. I'm going to set up 2 stations. We can read them. Tongue depressors, toilet paper rolls, clothespins, wood craft planks, which is cardboard, these things. Legos. I think they're calling, oh, those are Legos. Pom-poms. And then the pumpkins. So we gave them these materials, and these are,
Yeah, those are
yeah. Guess what? Your kids were totally able to do this.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Oh, then you have an idea.
Sorry.
I want you to try to do it. And talk about where are the problems and what do you have to do. So can you guys like turn around? I'll come, as you're working, I'll come around and get the teddy bears out of your way. So I'll show you the 2 pumpkins. Here they are. The way
He's not. This is. We have a shorter.
It's short, this one?
Yeah.
Maybe we could just order them.
well, actually,
Are the others the same
how
size?
many
I think
they
no need
hold.
for other.
Should we make a strong pumpkin? I mean, a strong.
Strong, yeah,
We can make it.
So why does that make it stronger?
because it's more stable, like stronger base.
Or we could do. We can add more.
Yeah.
We can hold
Like
two.
wider, yeah. but this will. See, this one is not really.
They had 5 pumpkins in the class. So success there. If I asked you, it said it has to hold a 3rd pumpkin. What are you going to have to change in your design?
Yeah, make it
We're going to
longer.
make it wider.
Why? We could just put it on top.
I don't think so.
We could.
Okay, but
Yeah,
you have to
it's
make
easier
it
to make it longer though.
Longer.
Or wider.
Or wider.
Wider.
Yeah.
This,
So that you
or we
can
could just
put-
make it longer.
I think longer is better.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, longer
Yeah.
is okay.
So when you have to do that,
Very good.
But will one board hold
One
pumpkin?
here, the second one in the middle, and the third in the. Let's try.
okay, to be honest, I didn't bring all 5 pumpkins down. I think they were starting to rot. Most likely, could we do that?
Yeah.
So this is problem solving in a pre-K world. It's very interesting.
Together.
This story first came up. The kids didn't have any problem. They put them end to end. So if I just take the planks away, this is how we just keep this going. Sorry, there were no planks at the store. Now what are you going to do?
It's the tongue devices.
Yeah.
Use that as a
But
plank.
what about other one? You cannot put it on. Try. No.
Well, if you lay them across like this,
But this one is okay. Can take.
but they will.
These are okay.
But if it's for more than 2,
Yeah, more than 2.
let's
you
try
can put
more than
like
2.
More.
so
No, you have to put more of them. Like, use this
then,
one.
I don't think it's gonna hold all of.
No. I think like that we
no,
can.
like that they'll squeak. But if you maybe do,
Just put this one there. Yeah.
But that's just 2. You
Only
want to
for
do more
2.
than 2.
More? No,
It'll roll away.
Yeah,
I'll just
but
block this away. Don't let it roll.
Yeah, that's exactly.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they figured out the clothespins. If you
okay,
flip
yeah.
it,
They will
it
not hurt.
right. There's just tons of solutions.
But maybe this because it's not the other way around. It's not so. When it's on like this, it's wobbling. Oh, okay.
Yes, but unfortunately, the planks weren't available when we went to build the bridge. So now what would you do?
Oh. All right.
Believe me, I wouldn't need to do that to a 4-year-old, but you guys are a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
That feels.
Okay.
It's just
Can
these
I ask
things are hard.
you to
It's
stop?
fine.
I think you get a good idea
Yeah, we
of
get
what
it.
we're talking about. Yeah. So what I want you to realize is that these are kind of real life. I mean, there's something that they can really do, and this is where we kind of feel like pre-K is ahead of the rest of the world. This would be what we call a STEAM or a STEM project, and it's exactly what's appropriate for 4-year-olds. Once they succeed, then we start putting constraints on it. I took when I added more pumpkins, so all of a sudden you had to change your design. I then took away what I would consider the easiest piece, and so you had to rethink it. Problem solving in school is assessed on 3 ways. Problem solving itself is the success of the task. You all passed it. Modeling is, can you show it to me to understand the question? Well, when you're building something, you're showing it to me. Communication is, can you explain what's going on with it? So I'd be asking, why did you use that, or what you did? It's not so much that the answer is going to be right or wrong, but are they aware of the design process that they're doing? The other thing that's including in problem solving is perseverance. So this is that idea that when you come up against something that seems challenging, do you take it on and accept the challenge and find that rewarding, or do you shut down and go, I don't know how to do that. That's a heavy pumpkin. So we're trying to encourage that, so you can do it one way. What's another way you can do it? Or take away, their items. They're going to be building things. They're going to have to do like a marble drop. They've got these, I don't know what you call them. They're like tubes, let's just say, but they've got to start here and they have to end here. Well, I'll tell you, they're not going to line up beautifully. They might the first round. The second round, I would take out a piece and swap it out. But these are things that you can do at home with anything. As soon as they build something, if you ask them, can you build it taller, wider, with more pieces, with less pieces, or can it hold something? You've just taken their first design and now they've had to think it through and think about changing it. And that design process is what is really good for kids. And it's what we got away from for years in math, that it was just one set way of doing something. I really wish I was in pre-K now I didn't go to pre-K, but I think pre-K's always taught the best, and we're having to have the other grades follow them instinct. And that's pre-K. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Okay, so my son loves this.
Mm-hmm.
Loves this, but you move it onto paper, it gets lost. So I don't know.
I can tell you exactly why. He's not ready.
Right.
So he should just keep doing this.
Okay.
In 2 months, he is going to be a completely different mathematician.
Okay.
And if we push it now, 1, he'll feel like a failure,
Right.
which is ridiculous at that age. He will get there.
Yeah.
The term "yet" has become one of our favorite words. He's not there yet.
Yeah.
He will get there soon. Yeah, I mean, especially if he's flourishing in this, that's exactly what he ought to be doing. We're going to ask him because we don't know whether he's ready to go onto paper,
Right.
so we're always going to have that available because we're juggling 15 different kids who, and again, identical twins still might get there at a different time.
Right.
So we need to be offering that next step to all the kids, but if he's not ready for paper, that's
Yeah.
developmentally appropriate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, as a parent, you want to say, well, did you try? Then, you know, did you do your best? Because again, a challenge is not a bad thing. And one of those days he's going to do it and figure out, oh, that's exactly what it is. So we do have to keep asking him, but we've got to celebrate where he is. Especially just keep asking him why, how come, you know, all the different ways of saying it. But we do require the proof. We know that kids can memorize 2 + 3 = 5, and they can have absolutely no understanding of it. Yesterday at first grade, there's a big difference between the American schools and the British schools. The British schools are starting to memorize their times tables in first grade. Makes my hair stand on end. That's just so old school teaching, but they do it. The problem is that it's very hard in 3rd grade when they should be doing it to get them to explain their thinking, because they can't. Because the card, the flashcard in front of me said so, that's why. And once you've learned it at that abstract level, it's kind of nature that you don't want to go back. And that's where we get the stumbling block. Now, I know people move in and out. We move from different systems to different systems. We are giving your kids such a foundation. I won't say we're not giving it. Your kids are developing such a foundation. But yes, if they are to move schools, there's going to be a difference. There's always that time of settling in, figuring out what this school is asking. But within 6 months, they're going to be fine. You just have to accept that. I mean, that's about math, that's about writing, that's about friendship, that's about the rules of the school. You just have to give them that time to settle in. But we are giving them such a foundation that they'll be able to figure out the rest of the stuff. Mm-hmm.
I have twins.
Here we go.
Yeah. Then is the boy, he knows the number, and he already started doing like the additions, using fingers, using different kind of stuff to do addition. But the sister, she's not with the number, she's lost chicken white on, you know, there is no meaning. But the thing is, she's always saying, why? He knows how to do, and not me. You know, I find myself in front of something, they know that they have the same age, just they are in different classes,
They're
but
two
no
different, they're
answer.
2 different children.
Yeah, and no answer. I'm like,
You know, bless your hearts, parents of twins,
Yeah.
because the comparison is so natural. I think, please make sure you don't bring it back to a boy does math and a girl doesn't, because that is absolutely not accurate. You have 2 different children, one does math, one doesn't. She's gonna get there.
yeah.
If there's a concern about the comfort level, you know that there's something that she does better than he does.
Right.
And that's what you just have to gravitate.
I have identical twin girls, and there's always one that, you know, they have different
Yeah,
strengths.
it's just how
And
to
so
explain,
I
you know,
just
she's still like
remind her, like I would remind her of her strengths
yeah.
versus just keep on reminding her of her strengths so
Yeah,
that
this
she
is
just
like trying to
doesn't
go, but
focus. Yeah.
he is in letters, he already started reading. He knows all the letters, the numbers also, but she's being like, when even sometimes I want to play with me using like letters or write, I try to not give them the same thing. He's doing letters and she's doing numbers. Otherwise, she's like always, no, tell me how to write this, and like she's why?
You just
tell her that she is very good on drawing and do like books. I said, yeah,
Which is what a talent.
Yeah.
'Cause honestly, I can teach kids math. Nobody was able to teach me how to draw.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just have to truly, truly believe that the differences are valued.
Yeah.
And yes, it's hard when schools do tend to value certain things over others, and you just got to. You've got to believe it
Yeah.
and just say it and say it. And back to that, you're not there yet. That's okay.
Yeah.
I always say it will come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to ask you because, I want him to learn Arabic. We are Qatari.
Yep.
So now even his grandmother is complaining to me that he never speak Arabic, she cannot communicate, and he always reply in English. When I'm doing this, like I study in the car, I try to do this, I don't know, it's by coincidence, same thing. I say, should I do it in Arabic or English when I teach him? I say, اثنين زائد ثلاثة, so that, or I teach him in English. The last week I
Yeah.
was really doing it in Arabic, and he doesn't like it.
Right.
He just leave me.
In what we have to be real careful because math is a little bit different than reading and writing, where you are literally doing it a different direction. And I find it completely ironic that Arabic doesn't use Arabic numerals; they use the Indian numerals. It's like, really, couldn't you have at least aligned with us on that one?
Yeah, I know, but this is when it comes to writing. But yesterday we are not in writing yet. It's just
Right.
even in talking.
Right.
Like even yesterday I was teaching him the addition, 1 plus 1. I say plus زائد like in Arabic. واحد زائد واحد.
Yeah.
He's thinking, what does زائد mean?
Right.
So 1 plus 1. When you add 1,
Yeah.
he get it. So should I continue doing it in Arabic? Because I really
I'm
want
going
him
to give
to
you a
learn Arabic
half
as well.
answer.
Depends on
I
the
know
language.
that the research shows the stronger they are in their home language,
Yeah.
the better they will ever do. However, what happens in math is that they don't have the same vocabulary in both. So if you're going to do math, you're going to, just like that, you're going to have to teach him some of the vocabulary because they're not natural words to just pick up in your home language. I mean, plus or equals is not, you have to be taught it. So I know who I should send you to
children
answer
these
that.
days, do you consider their home language as Arabic? No.
But
If
you
they
have
are
a
born with a maid or with a people, they are not raised like us with mom and dad and grandmother. We always speak Arabic. We know the tradition of Arabic and all vocabularies even,
Yep.
the slangs. But for them, what I see from the kids, even when I see my nephew, my niece, they really, their Arabic is very limited.
No, but you
But I will tell
speak
you-
French at home. I speak French with
Yeah.
my kids because I don't want they will lose this language. We
Yeah.
speak French. But even when you are doing like letters or something, all the teachers say, told me, keep your language. The English we use it
We
at
want
the
them
school.
not
But
only
then
just
their
speaking,
language,
we
their
want them
home language
literate.
will be French or English.
Both. They will get both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean the strongest where they will do something wow, or if they go to a bookstore, they will look English or French.
It can be both, and it can be
But they will
We
be
would want-
stronger in English. That's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Um,
Not only in their home language.
This country is very interesting when you have a national language that isn't the predominant language. Like I wanted to learn Arabic moving here and found out there was very little place for me to ever use it. So I didn't learn it, which was shame on me. But I think as parents, you're in charge of your child. I would insist on Arabic at least partial time of the day. Maybe the main meal of the day we're speaking Arabic. Being bilingual and trilingual is one of the biggest gifts we can give our kids. It's not just that they have the language, it really affects the brain. The brain becomes interconnected in a much, much better way. Math and science, when you get into vocabulary, it just becomes difficult.
Yeah.
You just have to teach it. I think it's worth it. I think ensuring that if you're reading to your kids at night, that you're reading in Arabic also, because reading is where it really drops off. I guarantee you, they're going to keep their oral language, They'll probably keep their writing, but the reading is what falls below. And I, as a parent, if I had had the value or had the luck to have 2 languages, I would have insisted my kids using it. They're going to pick up all the English.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the dominant language here. I don't know about the TV in your household, but the computer games, all of those in general are in English. So I would be, but I don't want it to become, I don't want it to become a fight between us. I want them to value it also and just say, well, this is the family time. This is what we're using. Truly biliterate is what we call them when they can do everything. And triliterate people actually find the most appropriate word to answer. So if I'm not feeling well today, but it's not a sharp pain, it's not something else, and I'm going to use my only one French word I know, I'm just kind of feeling icky, I might say, I think it's malaise. I'm feeling malaise, or ennui. I'm feeling ennui. A truly literate one picks the word that's the most precise from the many languages they know. We used to think that was, we'd call it Spanglish, we'd call it all sorts of nasty things. Actually, it shows a really amazing command of vocabulary that you're picking the one that's the perfect word for how you're feeling. And I'm thinking like Swedish have like 40 words for snow. I mean, they differentiate. We have 1 in English. So a kid could look out the window and say, oh, the snow on the ground is, I don't know, any 40 words. So,
Yeah, coming from a parent that didn't speak Spanish with my girls, now I wish I would have. Because my first language was Spanish, but I have all my education in English, and I'm bilingual, and it really does benefit.
yeah.
You know?
And I'm going to say it again. The strongest thing is it's not just that you know the second language. It actually rewires your brain and makes it a stronger brain.
You have to be strict with, I just want to say,
Yeah.
my husband speaks Persian at home, but he only speaks Persian to my son. So you have to be strict with him. You have to tell your son, I don't understand you if you speak English to me. So that's what we've been doing, and it works.
Yeah, a loving, caring
I mean,
way.
in a nice
We don't-
way.
Yeah.
But
But
you
no,
do
I've
have
heard
to
about
be
it.
patient though,
Yeah.
because it
It could
it's
definitely
a
be
longer
behind.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a longer for them to pick it up, but then once they get it, it does change their brain. You know,
But this is a
really.
problem that a lot of Arabic parents, because I have a lot of Arab friends, they're having the same problem where the children grow up and they're teenagers and they don't know how to speak Arabic. And then once you're a teenager, it's just hard. But now is a good
I'm
time.
going to bring a teacher sometimes, you know.
Yeah, we also have a teacher twice a week. And then we also have Persian friends that speak play date. It's a lot of work.
And
But-
you might need to be speaking to your brothers and sisters who have kids and at the play dates. You know, the
Yeah.
more they can hear it from more than just one place. But that's hard. You can't control that. There is a woman. She's our English language specialist. I'm blanking on her name. She works right across the hall from me. Her specialty area is home language, and Ruben, who works across the hall, Natalie, and I'm blanking on her name. She's new this year. And that's her specialty area. I could have her contact you because when it gets to vocabulary, it does become this issue. But I know she's going to back up. Please hold on to your home language as much as possible. I know that English is what they call it a power language because so many people can use it, but please hold on to your home language. It will just be so much better. But it'll take the effort, and then sometimes I just have to say you need to be the parent and you know what's best for your children. But I'd give them hours. I wouldn't demand it. Let's do it now. And other times not. Okay. Thank you very much. There is a sheet on the back if you'd like to give me advice or let me know how this went. I have very particular, these belong to teachers. This side of the room has to go back in this tub, and this side of the room, I mean, the last thing, the teacher's like, don't mix these up.
I have a question. Do you have recommended games?
I do. On the website that I gave to you, I can't quite envision. Let me open it and double check what it looks like. But there is a tab for games. Any card game, any dominoes, anything that you do that you talk about is great. Right now, cards, you can play so many different games with them. The War, do you know that as a card game? You each flip out a card and whose is bigger.
No.
loses more or less. Now, I'm not sure, that could be tough because you'd have to take out all those extra cards. They really shouldn't know up until 5, or you've got to give them the tools to build it. Let me look at my live binder. See if I can. Sure, this is going to go. Parent resources. So this is the page I'm talking about. This is what comes up.
But how we can get inside this one?
Well, so you go to kindergarten. And there's fluency games. Whoa, I just almost said the line. I don't have pre-K on here because I wouldn't have fluency games. What I'm looking for, Irma Anderson is a woman who comes and helps teach me at my level, and she came and she recommended games.
Okay.
Under Irma Anderson, it says recommended games. This is just this is on my parent resource. So what it is, it's just a lot of names of games, and these are the favorite ones from teachers. I'm trying to get something that scrolls here. Please be very aware, there are 4. I'm going to take back that whole, I shouldn't have said war. They're not ready for that. They should be building. They should be doing Legos, they should be doing Connects, they should be doing Tinker Toys. That's the appropriate place for them to be challenging
Can work
themselves.
on the iPad, if we give them like the tablet and they can play on this one?
No. These are type games you have to purchase.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. These are Connects are. I think they're long, skinny rods, and then they have these different ways of a joint. I know for a better word that you can put them in, and then you can build this. So how high of a tower can you build?
How about Jenga? Have you heard of Jenga?
Yeah, Jenga's on here.
Jenga.
Yeah, isn't Jenga more? It's built when you try to take them out.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of falls at 4-year-old, but
Yeah.
fine. Why would you choose that one? What happens when you choose that bottom one? Now, invariably, you're gonna think it's fall, and they pull it out and it stands. You're like, huh, that's interesting.
And you make it.
Yeah. Tinker Toys. There's these magnetic ones. I think Zoobs. I'm gonna get these. They're there, but there's all sorts of different types. But at 4 years old, they really should be building and creating. I mean, in Play-Doh, it's a different thing, but that creative side of it. Play-Doh also has the benefit of their hands. We don't ask them to do as much with their hands. That's one of the problems with screens. They don't have the muscles built up in their hands to start writing in kindergarten. Cutting is very difficult because they haven't used their hands a lot. Strangely, one of the best things to do that is clothespins. Give them clothespins and let them do it on there, and so. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.